My guest on today's Live Like an Acrobat podcast with your host, Shenea Stiletto, is basketball freestyle juggler Michael Van Beek, also known as Michael Evolution. Hi, Michael. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me. How's it going?
It's going good. As you can hear, I've lost my voice a little bit after the Super Bowl festivities for this past weekend. For those of you that were tuning in and seeing, if Taylor Swift's boyfriend was going to win or not. He did. It happened. He won.
Good.
And
Yeah,
and Usher was phenomenal, and Circus
he
Friends
was.
were on point. So we, I think everybody got a little bit of what they wanted in this Las
Absolutely.
Vegas Super Bowl. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So Michael Van Beek, also known as Michael Evolution, is a world-class basketball freestyle juggler that amazed millions of people in his career so far. With 20 plus years of live stage experience, Michael has earned his marks in the performing arts industry. He became the first basketball freestyle juggler that brought excitement into the world of theater, variety, and circus with his artistic creativity, showmanship, and captivating skill set. His successful career has brought his performances to prominent entertainment companies such as Cirque Du Soleil, Teatro Zinzanni, the Gay Variete, Universal Circus, Urbanatics, Wintergarten Berlin, Circus Africa, Crystal Palace Variety, and many, many more. Michael was also the body double slash choreographer for the legendary NBA athlete Kobe Bryant in the advertising commercial of Turkish Airlines, became a finalist at Beat the Best, the Dutch television show, delivered the perfect performance in words said by Dieter Bohlen on German television at Das Supertalent, received the Variety Etc. Award at Crystal Palace Newcomer Festival, and won the 2023 Viva Fest World Circus Arts Championships, along with receiving the special award from Cirque Du Soleil. You are so amazing, Michael. I've been wanting to have you on the podcast since forever, especially since when you won Viva Fest last year. I imagined
Yeah.
having you on right after that. Didn't end up having you on after you became the world Viva Fest champion, which was amazing. I want to get into that and ask you, how was that last year? And then if you have plans to make a comeback this year at Viva Fest.
Yeah. So no, it was an amazing experience to participate at the Viva Fest. I was not expecting to win. My goal is always when I participate in a festival or a competition, it's just I want to show my skill set, and I want to share my passion, the joy, and share that with whoever is watching me. So winning the Viva Fest was really surprising. For those that were at the Viva Fest, they probably seen that for sure on my face when the host announced my name. I was like, really? I was like, no, you playing with me, and so it was amazing. Grateful for winning and be able to show my performance in Las Vegas. That was also actually the first time performing my act in Las Vegas, as I'm trying to see the opportunities in the Vegas industry. I felt like if I'm able to perform on the Viva Fest, I know there's a lot of people coming there to see their friends, artist friends, and let's take it from there. But yeah, I was happy to able to participate and grateful for winning the competition. Yeah.
I think it's really smart. I mean, for those that maybe haven't used a festival or know, what it's like to use a festival, right? In the way of getting seen and, a
Yeah,
new audience in seeing your act, and casting and agents and people that are
absolutely.
deep in the circus scene to remember you for projects in the future.
In the
So I
future.
think it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like I never have an expectation like, okay, well, after I've done this festival, then this should happen or that should happen. It's just every festival in the world, depending on where your point of interest is. So, if you want to be in the market in Europe, then you have to dive into like, okay, now what's your game strategy on, getting noticed by those people on the European side, of the industry, so they know about you, your existence, and your act. So then you have to find a way to show them like, okay, well, I'm here. This is where I'm going to perform, or this is the festival that I'm going to attend. And sometimes you don't have to participate, but sometimes you just visit, and then like, okay, agent A or agent B is going to be there, producer A, producer B is going to be there, and then just step into the field and approach those people and start having a conversation, and try to monitor, what's on the market over there, and then from there you just have to. I mean, aside from that, you have to come prepared. So it's like your whole portfolio, everything needs to be ready, because once they start asking the question like, oh, so do you have something I'm able to see, then it's going to be like instantly, just like when you hit the stage. It's not going to be like, oh, hello everyone, this is who I am. No, no, no. You get into it right away, and impress and convince whoever is standing in front of you or watching you. So yeah, I've done my homework,
Yeah.
before coming to Vegas, and knowing about, okay, well, we have a show A, we have a show B. There's an agent A, there's an agent B, producer C. How can I get in touch with them, and what kind of sources are there in the Vegas industry that I can use to utilize whatever to be seen, but no expectations. The goal is to be seen, and then from there is patience is key, but then you have to make sure you just stay in the loop, in somehow, in some way. um, and then we'll see what happens. That's the nature of our industry. Like you never know what's coming on your path, um, but at the same time, you cannot, there's no, you have hopium. I would say like, oh yeah, there's some form of hopium. I like to say it like that, but yeah, it's always a big question mark at the end of the day, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, like I was there in a very different capacity than I've ever been at a festival. I was judging last year at Viva
Yeah.
Fest. I was also teaching and presenting with some advocacy here as well, in Vegas, and bringing some local advocacy here too. So you never know what kind of role you might
Yeah.
end up in at a festival, and it might be very different than what you've done in the past, and then impact your career in a different way moving forward too. So I really like to stay open. I'm so glad that you like to stay open. But what I like that you
Absolutely.
always say, Michael, is that like stay ready. like
Yeah, stay ready and stay innovative. Every year,
mm,
tweak here and there. Um, for me, as a non-traditional circus performer or non-traditional act, um,
hmm
I had to come from a long way, that to be seen in the industry. I don't have any circus educational background. I come from a whole different educational background. I've done finances and insurance back in 2005, and I just had the God's given talent of doing these basketball tricks while I was still playing some basketball competition back home in the Netherlands. So um, just trying to get into the industry. I started my first contract in 2006. I did an audition for a theater show, um, but I was a rookie. I was a freshman. Like it didn't it wasn't easy. Like I had to, like find myself and do a lot of research, do a lot of networking. Um, you know, Initially, first, um, it was the German market. I wanted
mm,
to get into the German market, but before that, actually, it was theater, and then with the theater company, the company is called Ish Dance Collective. Before it was called Ish. Um, that we had mandatory classes, so we did some acting, improvisation, dance classes. and then there were also other non-traditional disciplines that were up and coming, such as parkour or free running, or so we had some workshops from those people. So they try to make us like very, like versatile in, like in those genres, basically. We had breakdance, so just to get a taste of it, but then also try to see if you can use that for your main discipline. So from there, I just started training, and then from theater, I went into circus. I got involved with Circus Africa, and then I saw Cirque Du Soleil, Kidam, Video, and Dralion, and Saltimbanco, and I was like, wow, this is something else. And like I want to be part of this. How do I get involved? So then I start doing another research. I start networking, how to get into, Cirque du Soleil. So I did my audition in 2009. And then I got my
Wow.
contract in 2017. But it was, I mean, it's long, it's 8 years, but it was definitely the right time
Hmm.
after waiting for 8 years. But one lesson that I really learned is because I was so eager, I was like, yeah, I was sending email to Cirque. Yeah, I can train and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know about the structure. It's like, okay, well, when you have an act and there's a position available that fits with what you do, then we'll reach out. So once I started noticing that, I was like, okay, I need to just, you know, build my kind of like household name in that
Hmm.
type of way, and then at some point they just have to hear about me instead of me just every time reaching out like, hey, do you have something new lined up, yada yada yada. It's not going to work. You just have to build your name into the industry, gain that reputation, and then there's going to be there's also going to be maybe like a producer to producer recommendation, for an artist, like, hey, this artist has been working on my show. I think he would be the right fit for your show. Sometimes I had like an email like, hey, I heard about you from this producer, and I would love to have you, on my show. So now I started to understand, the structure within, the performing art industry. It's like, okay, and then now and then you just send an email just to let them know that you still perform, you still do what you do, you're still going strong. So it took me 2 years to get into the German market. It didn't came easy. So after that, throughout the years, I was like, okay, should I invest, in myself to do something in the United States? So then I start doing research on that first before, because as a non-immigrant, you have to make sure that you get your own work visa and all that type of stuff. And it's a long process. It costs a lot of money. So the main question that I ask myself is like, okay, is there a market for you, Michael, to be performing in the USA? Yes or no? Yes, if it is, okay, which way? Uh, Commercial, live stage, and so on and so on. So yes, there is, because there's nobody else that you know does it how I do it. So there is a market. So from there, then is the question: okay, do I want to invest, an X amount of money to obtain the work visa, um, to
Hmm.
invest X amount of hours, on the documentation and everything. So I always collected all my history, basically the media coverage, and always stay in touch with everybody that I've been working for. And it takes a lot of time, but it's going to pay off if you really believe in your talent. You're going to have a lot of obstacles, on during that road that you are like pursuing. um, but it's basically like not giving up, and be aware of your how you say that, your skill set, your value, towards the performing art industry, because then you're also going to have, like, you're in the contract negotiations and so on. And there's a lot of stuff that's happening at the same time. And it's like either you you have like an exclusive agent, or you just manage everything yourself, like myself. Um, um, so yeah, there's a lot of elements involved with actually being a circus performer or a specialty act performer, um, in our beautiful industry, because it is a gorgeous industry, and we're all passionate in what we do. Um, yeah, that's something that I definitely wanted to share. But it becomes it stays interesting, and um, I always say I am always a student. So every day I'm still learning. Like, even though like I'm in the industry now for 23 years now, uh, I always feel
Mm-hmm.
like every day is a new day, and every day is,
Mm-hmm.
you can still learn stuff that you didn't know about, or sometimes I hear about a show that I never heard about, and that show exists already for like 10 years or 15 years. Like, wow, I didn't know. It's like, like, maybe I should dive into it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah, it has been a journey so far, but I'm loving every moment still of it.
I can tell. And, that was like a really beautiful, condensed way of like, I like to call it like circusepreneurship, because that's what I feel like so many of us are. You're an entrepreneur in the performing arts, in the circus, paving your own way. Every single time I see this show here, Mad Apple, by the way, I always think about you in the closing when they're doing the basketball scene. I always think, why isn't Michael in this scene? Like, why isn't Michael? Okay,
Yeah,
but maybe in the future,
maybe in the
that's my.
future, but yeah, I've
It,
heard it many times. Yeah, I've heard that many times.
I know
Yeah,
you've heard
but
it
we'll
many
see.
times because like
Yeah,
you're our
yeah,
go-to person. But there's also something about being in people's minds like that so strongly that if they see a scene in a show, you're the first person that they think of. I mean, that's very
yeah.
powerful. That's
It is. Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that. Absolutely. It's and I have to say, yes, it is an instant fit, but like that's a great example. Sometimes you are an
mm-hmm,
instant fit, but
mm-mm,
like the production team, they're just going into a different direction. It's also part of our industry. So even though you see
yeah.
like a big W, you see like a big win scenario, like, man, this is like, it's a no-brainer. If they decide like, no, we'll just want to do it like in this way, because they, it's their production, so they decide what they want to have on their stage, and what they think that, they probably say maybe like, oh yeah, it is a fit, but at this point we don't have the need of having being part of the show. There are many different like factors that they have, or reasons, and it's all fair. It's all fair and square, and just
Mm-hmm.
move forward. And I think it's a perfect example. you know it's a big W, but at the same time it's not.
Exactly. And that's the other part. That's the other, like, I think it can be for people distressing, or it can also be that's just the way that it is. That's the setup. You never
Yeah,
know if the show is going to go in the direction that it's fit for you exactly. Or, like you're saying, different people come into the show and the elements of the show could change. The elements of that particular part could change to either fit you or not fit you. And there's so many people involved with making
yeah,
decisions like that too. And
yeah,
sometimes it's not even in the hands of the person that may really want you. It might be in the hands of someone else that has a different idea for how they're going to move forward for that role or for that
yeah,
scene, or maybe they're not going to keep that scene for that much longer and you don't know that. Maybe they had it for 6 months, they're going to take it out. It's not even going to be in the show anymore. So there's so many things. I think it's good, especially when you're in the business this long, you have these conversations with yourself and with people that so that it does not drive you crazy. Because I think when you don't realize all those different nuances, it could really hurt you. It could hurt, I think, your circus soul. It could hurt your performing arts soul, because then you feel like, okay, why am I not getting it? Why isn't it
yeah,
for me? Obviously,
yeah,
sometimes people are just dumb. And I also say that too. Sometimes they just don't get it. But in other times,
yeah,
there's so many other things and layers that are the reason why it's not for you at this moment in time. And I've also seen things come back around for people. And I always just say, like what you're saying too, Michael, like you just stay ready. You never know if you're going to get a
yeah,
call and they're like, hey, are you available for that thing that you wanted 5 years ago? Like, who knew? Like this, it's
Yeah,
open now,
exactly.
like tomorrow. Like
Yeah,
I've seen it
yeah,
happen. So,
yeah. And that's the thing. I think, I fully agree with what you're saying. Um, as a performer, and even, for the next generation, or that are up and coming, you're gonna face these rejections. But I would say it's not an L as in you lost here. It's an L for learning, and from learning you become stronger. Um, I experienced a lot of rejections, but at some point I just told myself, look, man, you just have to be numb for this, you know. So my main goal is, if I send out an email, or if I'm trying to reach out to a person that where I feel like, after doing the proper research, I always say do the proper research, and don't put yourself out there as a performer when you want to introduce yourself to a show production. Try to think as a producer what he or she needs for their show or for their audience. And then if you understand that, if you just switch it around and become the producer or the director or one of the casting team members, then you start realizing what they need for the show. And then you can start asking yourself the question, do I fit in what they already have? So that's why I always say, like, do your proper research about the show. Uh, I've never done a Spiegel 10 show. I've tried to. I reached out to Palazzo when I was when I was more, on the German market side, um, but it didn't happen because I saw the potential, and I seen myself like, yeah, I can do this, but they were not able to see that, which is fine, you know. And I did have, a good conversation with the director, and she really liked it and stuff. But there was not like a follow through, like, okay, now we're gonna do this, like, it wasn't. But my goal is to, when I introduce myself, is to be seen, and that I'm on their radar, and it can take 1 year, it can take 2 years, it can take 2 weeks, it can take 5 months, you don't know. But my main goal is that, to be seen, that, like, hey, there's this guy, and he's great, but we don't see it now, but let's just keep him on the radar, and let's see if that, we'll find a way in the future. So it's still like, I try to keep everything as open as possible, as open as possible. And then from there, it's just patience. And then every year, or every 8 months, or maybe 10 months, or maybe after 2 years, you be like, hey, I'm still here, just letting you know. I've been doing this and this and this. So when I got into Teatro Zinzanni, I was already doing my homework, after I obtained my O1 visa. I was training. I was asking, like, friends about Spiegel World, and, like, what's the stage format? Like, what are the measurements? So then they told me, like, these are the measurements. So what I did when I was in Vegas, I start training, with those measurements, because I never done a Spiegel 10 format show. And then I did the Moisture Vest live broadcast in 2021. That was November 2021. And then it was the producer. He saw the live broadcast, and the next day when I flew back to Vegas, I got an email and said, "Hey, I've seen you on this broadcast, and are you available for Teatro Zinzanni?" While I was doing my pre-work, just to be prepared in case a scenario comes up that, I will be, like, in a Spiegel 10 stage, on a Spiegel 10 stage, because it's different. You have to perform 360, and as a juggler, it's different, than, being flying in the air and doing your, because then it's, you always, turning around, and you have your, everyone is seeing it. But when you're a juggler,
mhm.
people, they watch the, partly they see nothing, and you have to turn around, and, so it's different. So I just had to make sure that I've done my homework, And then when I got the contract, so after like I got back to Vegas the next day, then I had the contract in 2 weeks, and then 6 weeks later, I was in Chicago with my first season, which was in January 2022, and now I'm on my third season with Zinzanni. So you never know
Wow.
how it happens, but because I invested in myself with the research about what's on the market in the US, and where
Mm-hmm.
are my best winning directions, and where are the average, a show production that doesn't know yet how to see if they can utilize my act in their show. That's fine, but it will come. Like I'm trying to, basically um, create my household name into this market here a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that in Germany, so now I'm trying to basically benefit from. Okay, well, I can do a contract in on the European side, but I can also do a contract on the US side, and find balance also with, like my private life with my family, because I have to balance that as well. Like I have a son, he's 8 years, so it's not that I can do this like long. I cannot do like consistently long-term contracts. I have to find the gaps of like, okay, well, I'm gonna be at home. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's a different thing. Like, as a performer, and you have a family, you have kids. It just changed a lot. It changed a lot. If you don't have kids, you can do your tour life and stuff, or you decide to bring your family on tour. That's a choice. Uh, I didn't choose that with my wife, because my wife, she's a flight attendant. So it's just one big complicated situation when you have to put two schedules next to each other with having a child as well. So it's a different topic, but my point is that don't think as a performer when you try to apply for a show production, but just think as a producer, and understand what they need for their show, what they benefit from, and can you add value to their show, with your act, with your skill set, and do you have extra other skill sets that like are a great addition, like or asset, to see it as an asset for their show. So it's yeah, it's but it's just a good point. Like even though when you see like, oh, I'm a great fit, then sometimes they just go into a different direction. But I always say just be numb for that and just move on to the next, and then put that one on hold. Maybe this is not the right time, because it's also about the timing. Is this the perfect timing? Maybe it's the perfect timing, but maybe then at that point you are occupied. You're already in a contract. That's the it's the other way around. It's like, shoot, I really wanted to do this contract, but I'm in a contract. Now the other point is you have to stay loyal. So even though if you have a contract lined up, and out of a sudden finally producer A comes, he's like, hey, Shenea, I would love to have you in my show. And you'll be like, after 3-4 years, producer A is reaching out to me, and I have this contract lined up, and I already signed it. You got to stay loyal to this contract,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the most important, is the loyalty and the integrity in our industry.
Yes.
If you cross that, then, or if you breach that, then your reputation is falling down, or falling apart, for partly I would say, and then it needs time to get back on your feet, basically. um, but yeah, that's a scenario that happens too, and I experienced that also many times. It's like, ah, man, I really wanted to do this, but then you can always, now that you draw the attention, you can try to um, basically say, well, let's stay in touch. What are your plans for the next season? Because
Mm-hmm.
so now you can see if you can try to fill your agenda for the next year. So now maybe then you're going to be booked. Maybe you're going to be booked like 1 or 2 years in advance. At some point when I was uh, becoming, like a hit on the German market, I was booked 2 years in advance. At some point, I was like, "Whoa, man, I'm good." Like it just kept going. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, that's
so yeah, that's
wonderful.
yeah. So I mean, you have so many different scenarios, but it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are such great examples, Michael. And we're getting down to the last minute or so of the
Yeah,
podcast. Thank you so much, Michael Evolution, for coming on to the Live Like an Acrobat podcast and dropping all of this wisdom. Please let us know where to find you, how we can find you, and then also I wanted you to speak a little bit quickly on you create packages like promotional packages for other artists, and you do really beautiful, brilliant work. Your website, your
I
promos
do.
that you send out, all of your promotional materials are stunning. And so, if you could speak a little
Thank
bit
you.
about that before we go, that would be phenomenal because you don't see that a lot.
Thank you for bringing that up, actually. So yeah, so basically, I well, you can find me on michaelevolution.com, Instagram, Michael Evolution. Um, that's basically like the two key pointers to find me. Um, I do also have, profile on Circus Talk. Shout out to Stacy Clark, know her for quite a while. She was actually the one that was at my audition in 2009 when she was working with Cirque du Soleil. So when it comes down to packages and stuff, um, here's the thing. When everyone goes to, let's say, the right, I go to the left. I don't want to follow the majority. So I created like a format, a strategy, to just be different. Of course, what I perform is different, and that's something that you have to show as well when it comes down to promotional packages. So I just found a way to simplify it, but then at the same time, it's important to have like a professional jacket. Like you have to be, a professional jacket to show like, hey, this is how I want to show out to the performing art industry, to the casting team members, to producers, to whoever, agents, um, and once they see that, they're like, oh wait, this is different. Um, the structure is hard to explain, but it basically comes down to just make sure you have beautiful photos, you have a clear video, um, and don't be cliche in when you try to reach out to someone. Be different. Uh, and once you understand that, and this is really like, of course, adding this, in a nutshell. Once you understand that format, um, it becomes um, it becomes easier, especially after so many years, of course, like myself. But then you become like a performer in the loop, and once you basically perform production A, you can come back after 3-4 years in production A, but you still have to be innovative uh, on and off the stage. So when you present yourself, you need to have a good portfolio, and I always say, be the Google structure. Be the Google structure, and that's basically it's when I'm gonna look for something. Let's say I want to find a phone or a brush. I'm gonna Google. I want to look for a brush. I'm not going to page two. I'm not going to page three. I'm not going to page four. I'm only looking at the first five that's showing on my page. So basically, it's Google structure is they just give you right away like this is the top one, that's the top one, that's the top one. You're gonna click on the first top five, and then from there, based off that, you're gonna make a decision. And if you think like I disagree, okay, then you consider to do that. You go maybe to page two. So basically, that's kind of what you want to do with a presentation is you want to get straight to the point, but you want okay. Yes. So, yeah. So the Google structure is, like only like the top five, and that's basically where you start clicking on. you're not going to page two. So that's the same with, when you want to present yourself, you want to have it simple, straightforward, or direct, and powerful. Because as a producer, and that's another topic, they get so many emails. It's just impossible to open all their emails, which I fully understand. It's kind of the same when you buy a product, and then you get like floated with all these advertising emails. Oh, sign up now, you get 10% off. You're not opening all those emails. It's the same, you know, as a consumer. You get the same what they do get on their side when it comes down to our industry. So now you want to have it short, sweet, powerful, and then from there they just basically get either convinced, triggered, like, I need to reach out to this person or that person. And once you understand that, then it becomes easier, and then there's a higher chance of getting a reply, but there's no guarantee. So that's why I'm saying the main goal is to be seen. So once you send out this email, or sometimes I call. I'm like, I don't care. I'll call to the person if there's an office number, say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I know about your show. I think we can get along. I'm gonna send you some stuff, but you have to do something, and then you have to come prepared with your promotional package. Your portfolio, your video, and it needs to be top notch, because basically it's one shot. Once you get on the stage, it's one shot. Once you introduce yourself, it's one shot, and maybe you have a second chance, because I always say chances are still a chance. So maybe you have a second chance. But if they're not triggered and they don't believe it, then there's just a higher chance not being part of that show, and it's gonna take maybe 1 or 2 years to give it another shot. But if you don't take the shot, it's always a missed shot. So that's
Oh, I hope that we got
yeah,
that part in.
yeah.
I think that's the perfect part to close on, because that was so good.
Absolutely.
You're
No,
so
but
great. Thank you
thank you so
so
much.
much.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's time goes fast when you start talking, but we can continue talking for hours like this. But I'm always open to talk with others. If I'm in Vegas or whatever, or meeting new people, and always hear the stories, because you never know. Artist recommendation is always helpful too. If you think like this artist is the right fit for production AOB, even we among artists are also, we can also help each other. There's like producer to producer, recommendation, and there's also always artist to artist recommendation for producer A, B, or C, and so on and so on. I always like to say producer A, B, C, because I don't want to, put out names and stuff, but we all know, like, the big names, and stuff. So, and for, for many, it's like, it's a dream, and for others, it's, every lifestyle, or, is different. But is if there's always a way to recommend someone, if you believe that act would be a right fit. If you don't think it's a right fit, then you can always give your notes, and so on, and that makes you becoming better, and better and better, because there's no the sky is the limit, in that kind of way. So yeah.
Uh, the sky's the limit. Yes. I mean, thank you for being so open, Michael, and offering to, share information and to mentor and to be open pretty much to other performers and other people in this industry. And, obviously, like when you're here, yeah, locally in Vegas, you're in Chicago right now, finishing out your season in Teatro Zinzanni, which is fantastic. And I'm so happy for you, and congratulations on everything. You are the reigning world champion of Viva Fest. So
Thank you.
again, congratulations for all that you are doing, all that you have done, and continued good things. You told me that you have a very busy schedule coming up after this too, but I'm glad that you're going to take a little bit of time out with your family. And yeah, it's good
Yes.
insight for people to see how you juggle family and career and opportunity. in
Indeed.
the best way. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining. The Live Like an Acrobat podcast is also available on Circus Talk, the inclusive, independent, and international online network for the circus industry. Circus Talk's mission is to create a level playing field for this industry and democratize access to information. Until next time, everyone, please stay safe and stay healthy. And yes, I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, and I look forward to the next episode of the podcast.